Okay, this is GamerBlave, and we're back with Deadly Premonition. And if you watched the last video, you know that we just got done with a climactic battle with Forrest Kaysen. And man, it was a battle indeed. But we are picking up right after I finished that battle, going into the final content in the game. Yes, save. I have absolutely no desire in any way to do that again. Oh my gosh. Oh man. In terms of gameplay, that was that was straight up just not, it was not good or particularly enjoyable. In terms of gameplay. Yeah. But in terms of everything else, like I said, I'm reserving comments until Deadly Premonition has had its final say. So hurry up and load Deadly Premonition so you can get your final say. These cutscenes have taken a notoriously long time to load, if they even do load. It has been a trying time getting
previously during the investigation.
Getting through it for sure.
York, the other me, my other personality.
There are some things in this world that must be extracted, no matter.
York, I'm sorry.
Why can you cause me pain? A red tree!
York and Zach. Finally, I understand. You two really are best friends. I'm a little jealous.
I'm sure he'll make you very happy.
Episode 7, the Epilogue. Harry's not rocking the gas mask.
Are you leaving today?
Maybe.
Zach, that story I told you the other day, did you believe any of it?
The fact of the matter is that I couldn't save Emily. So it really doesn't matter whether I believed you or not.
I'm very sorry about her. There's something mysterious about that picture. There's a calming beauty to it, and yet it exudes sadness.
Harry, I have a few questions for you.
About what, Zach?
Your last name isn't really Stewart, is it?
That is correct. It's really Woodman. Harry Woodman. George was my son.
You were there in the White Room when I was there. Why?
The same reason as your father. Long, long ago, I too was unable to shoot my wife. What's worse is that I was also unable to kill myself. Which is why I lost both. The woman I loved and my son. My wife suffered from a mental illness, but I still loved her. I wanted to save George too, if I could. Everything was my fault. If only I had the courage to make the right decision, Emily and the other girls would not have died. But you have put an end to all of that.
I wonder if they are happy.
Zach, no need to worry about that. York will guide Emily and the other girls into the forest.
I don't know what to think about that. My goodness. I mean, Harry, man, you could have saved us a lot of trouble if you told me about your son there at the beginning. But I mean, I guess he is your son, so it's kind of hard. I can understand that it would be hard to do that. I do. But gee whiz, man. So at the end of the day, you know, Zach/York, you know, we didn't really, oh my gosh, I mean, everyone freaking died. We certainly didn't apprehend anyone. Oh man, not really a very successful investigation by any metric that I can think of. Man, was that the entire epilogue? No, we got more. We got cutscene.
Hey, Michael. Mind stopping the car for a moment?
Very well, Mr. Francis Zach Morgan.
Am I going to walk around in the woods for a bit?
I heard you're leaving.
That's the plan. There is not much for me here now.
Uh-huh. That's right.
It's a shame about Emily, and the other girls too.
How are Isaac and Isaiah?
Oh, they're fine. They still don't think the girls are dead.
Give it to him yourself. He's right next to you.
Oh, okay. I understand. We'll do it for you.
Emily kind of told us to give this to you.
Emily said it's a present for Zach.
Thank you. Where did you get this?
Emily asked us to give it to you. See? She's over there.
There's another Zach there too. You're twins, just like us.
Emily couldn't give it to you herself. She said she's too embarrassed. So, she asked us to hand it to you.
Emily really likes you, Zach. She really likes you.
No, she doesn't. Not me. She really likes that guy York, the guy you see standing next to her.
Anyways, you two. Be nice to the girls, okay? And they'll be nice to you.
We don't like girls.
Girls are boring.
Gotta love them. Just full of energy.
Emily, York, sounds like you're both doing fine. I feel better about you two now. And hey, York, I figured out why George carried Anna's body all the way into the woods.
It was for them. He wanted Isaac and Isaiah to find her.
Mr. Francis Zach Morgan, if you are finished, if you are, please, let us return to the car.
No need for that. You can go home. I want to take a look around more.
Very well, then. I'm sure Mr. Stewart will approve of that.
So what, I'm just walking home?
Ah, thank you, Michael.
That's, okay. Sounds good. In terms of pacing, like, you know, a game, I like it when a game will peak, you know, and then have a, you know, a proper, appropriate ending. Like, you know, how does this thing end? Like, what's happening here? Where exactly does it want me to go right now? It wants me to go to the hotel? And I'm in the middle of the freaking woods. Hold on a second. Is it... Like... I'm just a little... I'm a little confused right now. I think understandably. I mean... It seems like the narrative should be over. It seems like something of whatever impact they may have been going for is diminished somewhat right now. But if there is another piece of the puzzle, or not puzzle, if there is another piece of the narrative that I am supposed to experience at the hotel, then I'm gonna go to the hotel and see if it's there, because I've got a destination marker at that point.
York, can you hear me? I'm a little jealous.
I'm all alone on this side now.
But don't worry, York.
I've had it easy for so long having you with me. I need to get used to being on my own.
Okay, so... I mean, it seems like, for the most part, I guess, you know, I said that I was gonna let Deadly Premonition say its piece, but it just is, it's taken too freaking long for it to say its freaking piece, so I'm gonna start saying a few of my current impressions, and if it dispels some of those impressions, then I'll go ahead and, you know, let you know that I've changed my mind, if I change my mind about those things. But, you know, for the most part, I would say that I enjoyed most of my time, most of the time that I spent, you know, with Deadly Premonition. That being said, you know, I'm gonna go ahead and say the last probably about 5 hours, the last 4 to 5 hours of gameplay, seemed very stretched. And, you know, I don't mind games that are long, you know, and a lot of the times I actually prefer games that are long, you know, especially when there's a very interesting, compelling story. But it seemed like the story was being deliberately stretched. And let's go ahead, I've got a talk icon here.
One more thing, York. I hope things are going well with Emily.
You've always been horrible with women. I gave you tons of advice during your last relationship. And you ignored all of it. I'm sure Emily will take the lead. Just don't fight her. Let her steer you in the right direction.
It seemed like things were deliberately lengthened. Like, for instance, the boss battles is like, they were not particularly challenging, they just took a freaking long time. I mean, I was not in any danger of dying in either of the boss battles. It was just that they just went on for forever and ever, and whenever you friggin' took out one iteration of them, there was another iteration and another iteration, and none of the iterations of them were particularly interesting. It was just like just another thing you had to deal with, you know? The strengths of Deadly Premonition came from the narrative. They did not come from come from... Wow, I took a lot of attrition when I nearly flipped the car there. Nearly destroyed my car. They didn't come from the things like the combat and stuff like that. And I think if they tested their game, they would have known that, and they really shouldn't have made those last so long.
York, tonight I'm going to sleep like a baby.
And the reason for that is they weren't good. They weren't good boss battles. You know, they were straight up bad. They were bad boss battles. And
Zack, it's over. All finished. It's time for you to leave town. Are you ready to go?
yeah. No, I'm ready to go.
Then this is goodbye, Zack. Thank you for everything. Good night, Zack. And sleep tight.
Okay, so is that it? They had me drive there for that. But as I was saying, the boss battles were not fun gameplay, so the fact that they just kept making them longer and longer, is just like just making not fun parts of the game longer. For no reason. And the chase sequences, the fact that you had to do multiple chase and evade sequences when you were chasing George through the sheriff department didn't make any sense. It just was starting to get monotonous, and it seemed like it was getting monotonous for the sake of just taking more time, as opposed to actually enriching the story, as opposed to either enriching the story or making the game more fun,
Polly, what's that picture?
Oh, that. We took it when the clock tower was built.
50 years ago?
That's right. That's me in the middle. I was pretty popular back then. Men were always around me. Sorry to keep you waiting. Just sign here, please.
And she never mentioned that Kaysen didn't age at all?
Mr. Morgan? Mr. Morgan!
Oh, I'm sorry, Polly. I was just thinking of a friend. Someone who was with me for a long, long time.
He must have been a really good friend then. Otherwise, why else would you remember him at a time like this?
Indeed. We used to fight, but he really was a good person. He's gone now, though. Gone away to a place where we can't meet again.
I'm sorry to hear that, but if he's a friend of yours, I'm sure he's getting on just fine.
Thank you, Polly. You know what? I think so, too.
Well, and maybe he gave up smoking. Wow. But anyway, as I was saying in my long-winded explanation of just straight up the gameplay, you know, it became a little bit belabored. It became a little bit less enjoyable there towards the end. Now, in terms of the story, it started to become very convoluted, and it became very convoluted in ways that didn't, at least immediately, not immediately, that's not really what the word I'm looking for, didn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, it seemed like some of the story narrative decisions were a little forced and a little much too. I mean, the fact that, you know, Kaysen is this, you know, forest tree, red tree, you know, immune dude.
Did Emily die?
No. She became the goddess of the forest. Even now, she is still in the forest with York. She watches over the world from there.
Emily became a goddess.
That's right. Isn't that a lovely ending?
Hey, Grandpa, can I ask you something? What kind of person is York?
York is a real nice guy. He's been a good friend of mine since I was small.
Like Mr. Teddy?
Yes, just like Mr. Teddy. A very important friend.
And roll credits. But you know, those elements of the story.
Emily! It's almost time for dinner!
Whoa.
Take your grandfather's dinner up to him, will you?
Yes, Mom.
Like the fact that, you know, like I said, like the Kaysen was this.
How's your grandfather doing?
I don't know. He's calling me Emily again.
Oh dear, he must be losing his memory.
Well, that's sad.
You are Louise, honey. Michelle Louise Morgan. Not Emily. You know that, right?
I know my own name, Mom.
I know you do, baby. You're just so lovely, Louise. I'm sure that's why your grandfather mixes you up with a goddess.
So I don't know if there's going to be more content. I don't want to.
Mom, where is the goddess?
I don't know, dear. I'm not much like your grandfather.
Is there even such a thing as a goddess?
I believe so, but I've never met one.
Mom, you're so pretty. You look like a goddess.
Oh, thank you, honey. If I am a goddess, then you are an angel.
I don't want to interrupt any more content that the game might provide, apart from the credits. And I do like watching credits at the end of the game. I find it satisfying to get to the end of the game and watch credits. But as I was saying, the fact that Kaysen is this, forest god who's, or not really god, but whatever you want to call him, who's, immune to the bullets when I decided to shoot him in that little cutscene, and he's laughing at me and, whatever, and whatever you do, Emily dies, and yeah, I don't know, the storytelling just gets a little bit weird, and I understand that there situations happen in real life, or in games and books and movies, etc., where the protagonist gets into situations where there's literally nothing that he can do, or she can do. They're up against a wall, they can't get out of a situation. But that particular storytelling device it came out of nowhere. It just came completely out of nowhere. I mean, we've got these red seeds, but what the heck, I mean, they come from this supernatural entity who, it can't be damaged by bullets, and anyway, that whole situation ensued, followed by the boss battle, which then goes into the gameplay that I was talking about. So, you have those situations, and then you have the whole situation that the supernatural elements of the game, which, I had been heavily suggesting and theorizing were completely inside of York/Zach's head, which seemed to, by the end of the game, be quite evident that was not really the case. And the fact that it is, it was never indicated in any fashion whatsoever in terms of the way that the case was handled.
Mom, do you believe those stories that Grandpa tells?
You believe them, Louise? They're all just made-up stories, dear. All fiction, like your picture books.
So all my picture book stories aren't true?
Oh, don't twist things around, Louise. You just want to know everything, don't you?
But, as I was saying, the fact that nothing was...
Here, take this dinner to your grandfather. Go on while it's still hot.
Mom, I understand what Grandpa's talking about. I've got Mr. Teddy, just like Grandpa's York.
Very nice, dear. Now off you go. Hold it straight or you'll spill the soup.
I've got it.
Okay, game. Sorry, it's getting discombobulated. I want the game to have its chance to speak. But yeah, the fact that, I know I've said this a number of times in the last few videos, but that's because it's something that, as I'm just giving my 2 bits here at the end, or more than my 2 bits, that's huge. That's huge. They either need to establish something, in the game universe that supernatural occurrences are commonplace, such that, it's not really something that needs to be mentioned specifically in a case, or they need to mention that they're dealing with supernatural stuff going on in the case. Either one of those things, especially when Emily noticed, had to deal with them in that situation. When you're playing as her. But all of that being said, up until you really get to the end of the game, I think that you have some clunky gameplay, and then and I think a lot of that's due to the fact that it was ported to the PC, and I think it is generally agreed that it was ported fairly poorly to the PC. And, you know, you get a number of patches, and you can get it to the point where it'll run more or less okay. Well, here we go, an extra scene. They get the whole crew there. Like trying to give you some kind of a happy ending. No, I mean, all those people are dead, for crying out loud. Now, I don't want anything that what I've just said, I don't want that to be mistaken as a bad review, necessarily. You know, if you were to just play the end of the game, then I would say that would probably review fairly poorly. But what I am saying is, yes, in terms of playing it on the PC, it does handle fairly clunkily, in a fairly clunky fashion most of the time. But that could be due to the fairly poor porting job that was done. I haven't played it on PS3. And it does crash a lot. But most of the time that I was playing the game, I was enjoying it. Despite those issues, you know, and most of the frustration that I had came towards the end with what I considered to be some fairly poor storytelling decisions. Okay, so I guess Grandpa Morgan presumably passed away there at the end, but was able to go join some of his friends there in the afterlife. But as I was saying, you probably don't want to hear any of this, but I do feel, I don't know, I feel strongly about the ending of Deadly Premonition. I'm sorry, so I feel compelled to talk about it. But you are empowered with the ability to go on to whatever it is that you want to do. But anyway, what I feel the end of the game, what I enjoyed the majority of the game, but I feel the end of the game was plagued by some poor storytelling decisions and some heavily emphasized bad gameplay. Like some bad gameplay that you just sort of had to slog through, you know, and it was like bad gameplay mechanics, and then it was just like you had to just repeat them. It's like do it like over and over again.
Zach, it's great to see you again. How many years has it been? I've been close to you the whole time. You probably couldn't see me, but you felt my presence nearby, right, Zach? I never thought you'd get married and have a family. Quite a surprise. I spent years honing my profiling skills, but I never saw that one coming. That's what makes humans so interesting. And that's why I just can't leave you guys alone. More than anything else. Seeing you look so happy is the best thing I could ever ask for. Anyway, Zach, did you see the newspaper today? As it turns out, over the last 3 months, there's been a string of bizarre incidents near New Orleans. Residents there are reporting a sudden strike of nausea, and then they completely lose control of their bodies.
I wonder if that was trying to set it up for another game, a sequel with another character, perhaps. I don't know, because this one just kind of led to him passing away. Although I guess presumably he would have been able to do something else before, becoming as old as he did. That being said, I have absolutely no idea if I'm to expect another cutscene now. It's just given me like 47 cutscenes here after the credits, which is kind of cool. But the fact that Deadly Premonition, at least on the PC, and my PC is not the fastest PC in the world, since Deadly Premonition is kind of an older game. Typically speaking, I install my older games on my mechanical hard drive. I still have a mechanical hard drive in here, which isn't doing the load times any favors. But even then, man, these load times are atrocious. They are atrocious. Which
some have already had 2 months of only being able to walk.
Oh gosh.
Does that make you feel anything? It makes me feel something. I know you feel it too, Zach.
Are you testing me? So when do we leave? Whoops. I don't think I got it. I didn't hit enter. I just moved it up there. Shoot. I don't think I got it in time. I hadn't had my hand on the controller this whole time because I was not expecting to have to interact with the game anymore. So it is entirely possible that I just missed some additional content. That being said, this is getting a little bit ludicrous here in terms of the amount of time that you've got to wait in order to see all of the content after the credits have played. But really quick recap of what I said. Overall, I would say the game is worth playing, but you get to the end of it and it gets a little frustrating.
Okay, Zach. I thought that's what you'd say. Well then, it's time to wake up, Zach.
The end. Okay. So that was a thing there. Is it going to ask me to save? Yeah, sure, I'll save it. Now it's loading something else. What could it possibly be loading now? But the end is going to get frustrating, and that is a problem, though. I mean, that I guess is really what it boils down to. I mean, does the journey, I guess, justify justify the experience when the payoff is, in my mind, when the payoff is pretty underwhelming in terms of in terms of the whole climactic moments, I guess. I didn't really, it got to the point where it just didn't really feel like we really solved the case. It just felt like so much bad crap had just happened that that everything everything had eliminated itself that could possibly be the case other than what it ended up being, that probably didn't make sense. But I mean, it wasn't like, it felt like we didn't solve the case. It's like the case just kind of worked its way into our face, I mean, it worked its way to the point where we found ourselves in the situation where we were crossing paths with the interests of the killer. And yes, that was because we were there and we were investigating. So, I mean, it wouldn't have happened if we weren't investigating. That's for sure. Is it about to load the intro? I don't know, but and that completely just distracted my line of thought. The fact that it just went off that screen. But it's just like we were spent the whole time trying to do this investigation, right? Going from point A to point B. And then the whole thing ends up just kind of coming to us. I mean, it just felt like, what in the heck did we actually accomplish? We didn't save any of these victims. When we found out that Emily was a target, we were like, we're going to try to save Emily. And we couldn't even save her. So, I mean, at the end of the day, that's a pretty tough one. That is a pretty dang tough one. I would say, would I recommend this game to someone to play? I don't know. I would probably tell them what I would probably give them about the last 15 minutes of what I said. I would probably sit them down. I would talk to them for about 15 minutes about what I think about the game, and say, there's a lot of fun stuff to be had there. There's some funny moments. There's some ups and some downs. There's some moments of pretty decent narrative, and there's some moments of pretty poor narrative. But ultimately, I think you're gonna have a pretty poor payoff in the end, in terms of how it wraps up. Let me go ahead and skip that scene because I don't want talking happening while I'm talking. My ego won't take it at this point. But I would probably say to them, what I would do is, I would probably suggest to them, that they should maybe play just either play a little bit of it, and if they just really get hooked, if you play the beginning of the game and you really get hooked in the first maybe hour to hour and a half of playing the game, if you are just super hooked at that point, then go ahead and play the game. But if you are not absolutely hooked at that point, then don't go through the game and trying to finish it just because you want to know what's going to happen at the end. If you're trying to slog through the game, not really enjoying it, to try to get to the end because you think that there's going to be some really awesome ending, it's some really awesome reveal that's going to tell you, you know, all this, you know, great, you know, stuff that is just gonna, you know, rock your world and be, you know, a narrative that you're going to be thinking about for days and weeks and months and discussing with other people in great detail, then I think you're probably going to be disappointed. So that's probably how I would go about recommending this game to people, if I were to do that. So that might be my first bit. My second bit would be like, but you can go ahead and watch my entire Let's Play on it because I've got the entire game recorded and on YouTube. But all that being said, if you liked this video, which you probably didn't because I just ranted and raved about the whole thing for like, I don't even know how long that was. That had to be at least 10, 15 minutes of me just ranting about it. But if you liked it, give it a like. If you liked it a bunch and you aren't already subscribed to it, this channel that is, then go ahead and subscribe because that'd be pretty cool. But regardless, as always, thanks for watching. But we're not going to be picking up here next time, but I've got a bunch of other games that I'm playing and releasing content for them as often as I can. So I hope to catch you in one of those videos next time.